Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling. And man, I really appreciate you guys coming by the channel, spend some time with me on the video. Really appreciate that, because I know there's a lot of other YouTube channels out there that you can watch. So really appreciate you guys tuning in to Intuitive Angling here. Guys, today I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, and I'd be curious to get your guys' opinion after I do so on that. So that's the topic of today's video. We're going to get into that here shortly. But also, guys, before we get started, I just wanted to give you guys a big thank you. Everybody out there that's taken time to subscribe here to Intuitive Angling. Everybody that's taken time to use and bookmark my Tackle Warehouse link that I put in the description of every video, and all the other links. You guys that are doing that, you guys are the reason these videos are on YouTube. If I couldn't do that, you wouldn't have any videos. What some people would probably loved if I didn't have any videos out there, but some people seem to like it, so appreciate everybody that's supporting it there. Okay, guys, before I start in this, I want to give you guys an example, because there's a really good correlation to this, and I want to talk about a movie first, and then I'm going to talk about how it relates to. I'm getting ready to say the quiet part out loud here. If you guys have never seen the movie called Don't Look Up with Leonardo DiCaprio, it came out like 3 or 4 years ago, so I'm not really concerned about giving any spoiler alerts away. But anyway, this particular video is about, there was a couple scientists that found like a 6-mile wide asteroid hidden for the Earth is gonna annihilate the planet and kill everything on it. And once they found it out, they went to the White House and the president to tell them about it, their discovery. And when they went there, they found out that basically the administration and the president, they were just totally inept. They didn't care. They sloughed off the science. They didn't believe it at first. And as even more evidence came out against it, they reluctantly decided, they were moving very slow on trying to do anything about it, because they were concerned that it was going to affect their polls or their re-election or something like that. Basically just a deal where there was a bunch of science deniers in the White House. So anyway, throughout the course of the movie, they did figure out a way. They figured out how they were going to deflect this asteroid away from the Earth. And so they got everything going, and they actually sent up all the missiles up there that were going to deflect this asteroid. And at the last minute, they decided to abort the mission, because they found out that this asteroid that was going to hit the Earth had something like $20 trillion worth of minerals in it. So the administration and the people in positions of power, they didn't want to push this asteroid out of the way, because, they could make trillions of dollars if they could mine it when it got here. So long story short, asteroid hits the planet. They ignore the scientists, and it destroys everything on Earth. So this is the point I'm talking about, and I'm going to draw this correlation to the whole thing we're talking about with forward-facing sonar in that particular context. Now, if you guys didn't realize it or didn't see, last week there was an Elite Series tournament at Smith Lake, or 2 weeks ago, Elite Series tournament at Smith Lake, that was won by an angler throwing a lure that looked like a fuzzy dice for bass that he was seeing on his video game screen. And I got thinking about that. It's like, and here again, I don't want to, when I tell this, I don't mean anything derogatory to the angler that won the tournament. I don't mean anything derogatory to anglers that are forced to use forward-facing sonar, because the tournament organizations have forced them to do that. It's not their fault. They have to do it in order to survive. You guys know I always put the blame on the tournament organizations. But anyway, this tournament was won throwing this lure that looked like literally a fuzzy dice, a piece of dice that had fuzz on it, through, looking at live images of fish that they're seen with forward-facing sonar that they had no clue were there before, and they could read and they could manipulate the fish based upon how it reacted to this fuzzy dice floating down there. And I got thinking about it. It's like, what have we done here? We have relegated the once great sport of professional bass fishing to looking at a video game screen and throwing fuzzy dice to catch bass. And the more I got thinking about this, the more I realized how this exemplifies the insanity of what we're looking at. Now, before we get into this, I want to say one thing about it, guys. I've completely lost confidence in the management at Bassmaster and MLF to do the right thing. It breaks my heart to say that, but they have not shown me any other they haven't shown me anything else besides that, because up to this point, they have completely been complicit, got their head in the sand, and they remind me of the movie in Don't Look Up about the president ignoring this asteroid coming to the Earth in the face of all the evidence and science behind it. It's the same thing. It's no different with that, because there's money involved in it. It's like they didn't want to push this asteroid out of the way because there was money in it. Tournament organizations don't want to get rid of forward-facing sonar simply because of the money in it. That's all there is to it. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping when they announce the rules for 2025 that they've made changes in it. Don't hold your breath, guys, at all. I haven't heard anything, that's going to be different on this. But the point of the matter is, let's compare this with some other similar realities here. Now, the big talking point behind the pro forward-facing sonar movement and the tournament organizations is that, you got to keep up with technology. Things change. Genie's out of the bottle. If you don't keep up with the times, you're going to get left behind. I've heard it all. I've heard all the bullshit behind it. Now let's reverse that a little bit, and let's go to like golf, baseball, football. Let's say, for example, Patrick Mahomes, he got outfitted with some type of bionic arm that allowed him to throw a football 100 yards, and he had some type of monitoring device that allowed him to throw it perfectly accurate, and he could put it within a zone an inch wide from 100 yards away. And this piece of technology cost $1 million. Then the NFL allowed it. Do you want that as a football fan? Do you want to see Patrick Mahomes with a bionic arm that can throw 100 yards into a spot that big around? Or let's say, for example, somebody came out with some bat technology in Major League Baseball that, it turned a pop fly in the infield into a 600-foot home run. Or let's say somebody came up with a driver that the average golfer could hit at 500 yards off the tee. All this type of stuff. It's the same technology that's equated for, we have went from 2D sonar and flashers to now where we're looking at live images, real-time live images of fish, that we can watch those fish, what we're doing, and we can adjust our presentations and, get those fish to bite that we didn't even know were there in live time, live imaging, which creates an element of, it's just not fair chase. So why is it that all the other sports out there have drawn a line in the sand and say, look, we cannot have this. We can't have this technology because it's destroying the heritage and the tradition of the sport, yet bass fishing does not do that. Now, this is a conversation we've had over and over again, but this whole fuzzy dice, live scope deal at Smith Lake was the thing that really made me realize the insanity that we're in the middle of here. And Matt Herron said it really good. I saw a clip of an interview Matt Herron did on a podcast a couple days ago, and Matt was saying it's like they were talking about forward-facing sonar. Matt's a hammer. I've got a tremendous amount of respect for the dude as a fisherman out there. And he was making the point, it's like, why all of a sudden, he goes, I have worked my whole life to develop my skills and talents and art form as a fisherman. And why do I have to adjust to some type of technology that came here overnight that allows a 19-year-old angler that has no experience in fishing, whatever, to come out and dominate the sport of fishing that makes my skills that I have worked for decades and decades and decades obsolete? Who can argue at that point? How can you possibly justify that? Unless you are in it for the money, and unless you have a vested interest in pushing out the heritage and the tradition and the older group of anglers out there, there's no possible way to justify that at all. And the more that I think about this, and the more that I look at other sports, whether it be NASCAR, all the sports I just mentioned, how every single one of them, they have maintained their legitimacy in the sport by having this baseline on equipment and ways that they can compete in the sport with the exception of professional bass fishing. It's the only thing about it. And the more and more that Bassmaster and MLF digs their heels into the ground in this thing, and the more and more it becomes obvious that they're just a bunch of money grubbers, that's the only reason this technology is maintaining where it is, the more it damages the sport in the long term. And guys, I don't want to see that, guys. Like I said, I've been fishing Bassmaster, and I've been part of Bassmaster. I've been a life member since the 1970s. I've been involved in Bassmaster before most of these guys working at Bassmaster were even born. So it's not like, I'm just some dude that fell off a tournament truck out there. I love Bassmaster. I love MLF, which was formerly Redman, which was formerly FLW, back in the day when they did the right thing. There is no way in hell that Ray Scott would allow what's going on now. There's no way. I just don't, I cannot see under any circumstances where he would think that was all right. Well, you got some type of person that's has a vested interest in the tradition and the heritage and the conservation of the sport that allow this type of technology to evolve to where it's been right now. Don't ever get complacent, guys. You can't ever say, we've heard enough about it, Randy. Keep your mouth shut. We don't want to hear anything more about it. It's like you beat it into the ground. I always get memes about people seeing a meme of me beating a dead horse. You can't ever get complacent and normalize something that's destructive. It's just like the deal with the movie Don't Look Up. You can't normalize and be apathetic to some asteroid that's coming to the planet to destroy it simply because you deny science and facts and reality, which we're doing right now. It's like nobody can disagree with the fact that forward-facing sonar is diminishing everything that's made this sport great before. When you start having tournaments, every freaking tournament, with the Skeet Reese wins at the James River on a tidal river. No big surprise. Tidal rivers are one of the few exceptions where forward-facing sonar is not that big of a player just because of the unique conditions of a tidal fishery. So you can't point to Skeet Reese winning a tournament saying that this is like, it's just forward-facing sonar is another tool. Forward-facing sonar has completely taken over the sport, lock, stock, and barrel. And when you've got tournaments like this that are won on fuzzy dice over 150 feet of water, thrown to fish that are ghost fish out there, roaming around in open water that you never would have known before that were there, we have diminished what the sport is to the extent that is just, I'm just embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for everything in this. I'm embarrassed the way that it makes it look. I'm embarrassed for the people that, are using this technology, the people that are winning this technology, the press, the coverage that it's getting. It's like, when is the calm, cool, collected heads going to prevail on this situation? Because I don't see it happening right now. I don't see anything that is going to stop this unless the money dries up on it. And, most people can see that, guys. The thing about tournament fishing, or fishing in general, I tend to get locked into the whole tournament end of it. But the majority of the bass anglers in this country don't care about tournaments. But the problem you have with that is the way the tournaments fold and the way the tournaments progress, they influence the anglers that don't fish tournaments. And the cheater box is a prime example of it. It's like the cheater box has made its way over to the recreational fishermen right now that have no interest in tournaments. So when I'm always talking about tournaments and the trends and the rules that tournament sets, I do that because that eventually bleeds over into the mainstream bass fishing community that do not fish tournaments. That's why most all of the recreational bass anglers out there, or not most of them, but a large percentage of them have the cheater box now, and they continue to have it more and more because they fell for the propaganda that it's okay to take the easy route. Matt Herron made a perfect example out there. It made a perfect, point on this thing. It's like part of bass fishing and part of the whole heritage and tradition of bass fishing is that you have to pay your dues and you have to work and you have to put in your dirt time, because as you gain time and you gain more experience and time on the water, the success equates with that. And it is simply not right for, and again, I'm not picking on 18 and 19-year-old kids, but they're the ones that have been sucked into this and fell for it. It's not right that a 19-year-old kid can come on the scene just because of a piece of technology and beat guys like Matt Herron and, all the other old timers out there into the dirt simply because of technology with no other skills behind it. It's an insult to everything that we have worked for 50 years in the sport. And if somebody fundamentally can't understand that or see that, I really think they need to evaluate their whole perception on what bass fishing is. So Anyway, guys, this is an ongoing battle. It's like, we're sort of like, in a position right now where you've got, when you're fighting against propaganda and money, it's very difficult to get past that. It's very difficult. It's the same with politics. When you got propaganda and money influencing a segment of whatever population, it's hard to transcend that. But the reality of the situation is every single sport out there, no other sport except bass fishing would allow this. The examples that I gave you for football, baseball, golf, none of those sports would allow that to happen, because they have some adults in the room in the management of those organizations that see the inherent danger behind that and appreciate, heritage and tradition. They see that, but I have not seen any evidence of that whatsoever within Bassmaster or MLF or any of the other tournament organizations out there. Yeah, we've got a few tournaments popping up here and there. There are no live scope tournaments. Those guys get it. They see a niche for people that want to fish tournaments without forward-facing sonar. But I stand behind it 100%. Like I said before, it's like, as long as those electronic companies, you're pumping millions of dollars into the tournament organizations, and they're making, millions and millions of dollars of profit every year from selling these things. And as long as marine dealerships are profiting from rigging these units on people's boats, nobody's going to fight it. It's like money screws everything up. The whole thing about money is the root of all evil is so true, and this is a prime example. So if you're like me, guys, if you're not offended by seeing a major bass tournament getting won throwing a fuzzy dice for bass they see on a video screen, if you're not fundamentally outraged with that, then you probably are not very aware of anything within the sport as far as tradition and heritage. And again, like I said, I don't want to sound like I am against people that use it out there. I understand it, that they have been forced to do it. They have been forced, and they have no other recourse than to use it. If you don't use it, it's just like one of my buddies said that fishes the Elite Series, I'm going broke because I don't use forward-facing sonar. Guys that normally dominated the sport from their art form and from their well-deserved success that they've got from time on the water and decades on the water have been kicked out of the boat. They have literally been pushed out by the tournament organizations. And I'm not saying that there's a vested interest of these tournament organizations to push out the older anglers and get, and have it replaced by just nothing but young anglers, but it's happening. Look at the Bass Angler of the Year list. Average age is 24 years old for the top 10 in Angler of the Year. That is unheard of. It's always been like in the 40s before. And the only reason is because of the cheater box. You take the cheater box out of there, and that would not be the way it is. And it'd be the same thing, guys. It's like, let's go back to the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is best quarterback in the NFL right now. You could take some high school, junior varsity quarterback, and what if you gave them a piece of equipment that they could put on their body that would allow them to throw the ball and make the moves like Patrick Mahomes without having any other skills behind that, because the success that junior varsity player would have is completely related to technology. Is that what you want? Do you want to see that? Do you want to see some junior varsity high school football, kid become a superstar in the sport because a piece of technology that's on his body? That's exactly what's happening fishing. Like, exactly, guys, that all these guys out there that are 18, 19, 20, 23 years old that have climbed to the top of the ladder in the sport are doing it because of forward-facing sonar. It's fake success. It's fake success that has been enabled by the tournament organizations. So most of the people get it, this video, most of the people get what I'm saying here. There's 25% of you guys out there that want to see me disappear. Say, Randy, you're washed up has-been, just shut up, take a seat. We don't want to hear it anymore. Your time has passed. Get with the times, Grandpa. I've heard it all. I've heard all the crap behind it. But in the reality of the situation, it's like sometimes you can present people with logic and fact and reason and critical thinking, and some people just don't want to adopt to it. They want to ignore that. But anyway, guys, go watch Don't Look Up. If you guys go out and watch Don't Look Up, there'll be so many correlations to what I'm talking about here, you will not believe it. So Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. We'll talk later.